Hello again. Welcome to Studio B of the Connected City Conference. For those tuning in now, I'm Cynthia Chow, your moderator for the day. And just a reminder to visit all 4 streams. We have Studio A, Studio B, as well as Startup Village and the Cocoon Lounge, where you can build your own avatar. So don't forget to try that out, as well as the on-demand videos from messages from around the world. Okay, so in this studio, we will start with our very first panel, the Hong Kong Connectivity ASEAN panel. We will welcome our moderator, Daniel Chun, Vice President of Smart City Consortium.
Well, thank you, Cynthia. Thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. Good morning. And good night. Well, actually, good evening from all the way from New York, Peter. Right. We have a lovely panel today, everyone. We are in Hong Kong, but we actually have a very excited panel, lovely panel that actually dials in from Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, and even from New York to share with us on basically Vietnam. So let me give you a bit of background about myself. I actually volunteer and work at Smart City Consortium as the Vice President. We've been supporting this wonderful event for the last couple of years. And today we actually have a panel that will be sharing with us about the connectivity of Hong Kong versus the different ASEAN economies. So without further ado, I would like to introduce, first of all, we have Puan Mamuna Jafar from Iskandar Region Development Authority. Selamat pagi. Good morning.
Selamat pagi.
Good morning.
Morning, everyone.
We also have Jaewon Peter Chun from World Smart City Forum. Good evening, Peter.
Good evening. It's pretty much late night.
Yes, and Joanne Fow from Getlinks, which is a Hong Kong startup, and he's actually calling from Thailand.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Good to be here.
Hi, and we have Paul Kent of KPMG calling in from Singapore. Good morning.
Hi, everyone. Morning.
Good, thank you. So without further ado, can I introduce also Eric, which is actually with us today here, which is from Hong Kong.
In the flesh.
Yeah, and hopefully we can actually have each one of you represent, speak a little about your organization, your initiative, involvement in Smart City. Let's start with Puan Mamuna. Can you share with us?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Daniel. Hi, everyone. My name is Mamuna Jafar. You can call me Mamuna. I'm one of the directors in Iskandar Regional Development Authority, and it's actually a government agency under the Malaysia Prime Minister's Office. And our role is actually to plan, promote, and facilitate Iskandar Malaysia as the premier economic corridor in Malaysia. So I lead the technology innovation work stream in my organization. And I would like to thank Daniel, the organizer, for inviting me as one of the panelists. And I guess to those who are not familiar with Iskandar Malaysia, we are actually located southern of Malaysia and like 3-hour drive south of Kuala Lumpur, and about 45 minutes drive from Singapore, actually, because we are located on the southern side. And I think we were established in the 2006 as an economic corridor with a vision towards becoming a sustainable metropolis of international standing. So let me share a little bit about Smart City Iskandar Malaysia. So in year 2012, ILDA has actually developed the Smart City framework, and it's actually a tool to accelerate Iskandar Malaysia vision and also to monitor our GHG reduction, our targets, our indicator, as well as all the 17 SDG. And our definition of smart city is actually a city that optimizes digital, technology, data, and insight to improve the quality of economy, social, as well as environment. So this is actually in our effort to become a sustainable region. So in Smart City Iskandar Malaysia, there are 6 dimensions. So we have the economy, governance, environment, mobility, living, as well as people. And we believe there are 4 important key enablers that is actually required to drive this Smart City initiative. And this include, of course, fast and reliable internet connectivity, a support of a data platform to collect and integrated data from respective connected devices.
Okay.
And actually, lastly, we strongly believe that to realize this smart city collaboration between government, like municipality and private sector is actually essential with, of course, workable business model of private-public partnership. And that should complete the ecosystem for a smart city. And Iskandar Malaysia currently in the third phase of maturity. We are already 15 years. And we will continue to sustain sustainability and optimize technology and innovation. And there are many projects in the pipeline, includes our urban observatory, which is one of our big data platform. We also look at public transportation. So we are currently developing Smart Iskandar Malaysia mobility management system to support our bus rapid transit with intelligent management systems.
Yeah.
So other projects include enforcement,
Thank you. I think this is excellent
monitoring,
sharing.
and so forth. So back to you, Daniel.
Thank you, Puan. Thank you for sharing. I'm sure we can dive into some of the projects that you have shared with us. Can we move to Peter? Peter, you're actually calling all the way from New York. Please share with us your experience particularly in Vietnam, right? Thank you, Peter. Over to you.
Hi, Daniel, and every guest and also speakers for today to sharing the insights together with me. My name is Joan Kitachan. I'm based in London and New York. I'm the president of World Smart Cities Forum, which is actually a non-profit organization based in London, England. And we actually work together with other entities called Accenture, which is tech accelerator based in London and New York as well. And Archive Labs, which is actually the raising fund and establishing the SPC, which is the Special Purpose Corporations for the Smart City projects. Currently, we're actually working on 7 different projects around the world, and Vietnam is actually one of them. Personally, I was engaged myself in building up a smart city in East London, Canary Wharf Financial District, back in 2014 for 3 years, and to strengthen the innovation ecosystem in London to produce more than 13 unicorns there. Okay. Basically, the project was called the Cognitive City, and to trying to make the city in Eastern London to be much more smarter and intelligent. So cognitive science-based smart city kind of initiatives.
Great.
We brought the innovation ecosystem there, and currently I'm World Smart Cities Forum have the mandate agreement between the central government and municipalities, and between us and also the Hanoi City government of Vietnam and the central government of Ukraine. So maybe I can share much more information with you guys later on.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. Indeed, we would love to hear more about the Hanoi project, because I've personally got some experience with Hanoi as well. So, shall we go to Joanne Phao from Thailand, from Bangkok? Joanne.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So, I'm John. I'm one of the co-founders of Getlinks. I founded that company in 2014. We're known to be the first company in Thailand to be invested by Alibaba, and I was also the youngest founder at that time that Alibaba invested in Southeast Asia. We've done 500 startups in the US, in California. Then we came back, opened several markets, including Hong Kong. So now Getlinks operates in 8 markets, gathering 5 million technology talents, mainly software engineer, designers, digital marketing, and those competences that are required in the digital economy. Recently, I've wrote a book because I've been asking myself, what's the next 10 years look like, right? How can Getlinks continue to make money? And of course, one of the largest things our marketplace have been doing is providing talents to fuel this growth of digital transformation. And we're talking about AI a lot with the connected cities and smart cities. We're talking about IoT a lot, but one essential thing about cities, it's people, right? And with COVID, what we're seeing is a lot of changes will actually happen through remote work. The concept of cities itself it's been challenged, right? A lot of people actually asking themselves, why do I have to stay in the city if I can work online, right? And with the new AI programs like GPT-3 from OpenAI and others, the question of technology skills itself is being reconsidered, right? People might be actually automated on their job quickly, so they need to adapt to new skills. So we're going to talk a lot about that, but essentially that's what Getlinks is doing, connecting talents with the digital economy.
Thank you, Joanne. So let's move to Paul Kent from Singapore. Paul.
Thanks, Daniel. Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Paul Kent. I'm based in Singapore. I'm a partner with KPMG in Singapore. I lead our economics, data and analytics business here. I'm part of a much bigger group, so I sit within a team called Data Transformation. It's quite a large, we'd be about 500 people or so. And we would do a lot of work with the Singapore government and the private sector on digital transformation, whether that's around customer, digital solutions, and of course data and analytics. Singapore government's quite amazing. I worked in a number of countries. I was based in Hong Kong as well, but UK and others. But yeah, they do some pretty amazing stuff here. It's always a fun place to be. They see the whole smart cities as a way to drive competitiveness and improve outcomes for the people, so social outcomes as well as economic type outcomes. I think that's a question they're constantly grappling with.
Absolutely.
So that's about it for me. Look forward to sharing more. Thanks a lot, Daniel.
Thank you, and thank you, Paul. And of course, with me today, sitting next to me in Hong Kong, is Eric Streisand from the Global Institute for Tomorrow. Eric.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Daniel, and hello to everyone on the panel and who's watching. So the Global Institute for Tomorrow, we are an independent Pan-Asian think tank with offices in Hong Kong as well as in KL. That's our GIFT ASEAN office. The services that we provide range from what we call purposeful leadership learning, facilitation and advisory work. And since 2006, we have facilitated nearly 100 projects in Hong Kong and around the wider region in about 15 markets. I think for our clients, the key insights that we provide really relates to how to anticipate and navigate the changes and the turbulence that we're experiencing in the 21st century. We're not exclusively focused on technology. I would never claim to be an expert in tech or smart city, but we have, I think, some very important questions to ask. Specifically, when it comes to technology, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? And if you look at smart city, how would we define that, or what would we say makes a city smart? So in fact, next week we're kicking off a project here in Hong Kong, which I'm happy to talk about, where we're looking at redefining smart city and looking at 4 pillars from the policies that would provide for an inclusive economy that would serve the needs of everyone, how to look at improved health and well-being. We're looking at facilitating the low-carbon economy and the transition to decarbonization. And then finally, we're looking at policies for enabling future skills. With regards to future skills, and I know that's something that you'd like to talk about, one of the things that I would argue is that particularly young Hong Kong talents, whether they're entrepreneurs or just ambitious young professionals, need to have much more strategic awareness and understanding of ASEAN. And so we have some ideas about how that could be facilitated and bringing them out to the front line. I have prepared about 3 projects that we can talk about, looking at inclusive fintech in Myanmar, because only about 20 to 25% of the population have bank accounts, so they need ways of transacting and facilitating payments. We've done a project related to inclusive healthcare in Vietnam, specifically for factory workers, and the 14 million person population, or at least about 2 years ago, is 14 million of factory workers in Vietnam. And then there's a vocational training project, which I can reference in Jakarta, looking at getting young people into the economy.
Thank you, Eric. I mean, this is a great introduction. So, panels, this is what I'm going to ask you guys. Okay, well, we all know about one of the pillars of smart city is actually about people, smart people, right? I mean, technology aside, one of the key important thing is how do you actually benefit the end users, and how does the people actually become part of the whole ecosystem, right? So talent is one thing, and one other thing that we all talk about is entrepreneurship, startup ecosystem, right? So maybe I'll ask you first, Eric. Okay, well, with this kind of all these new projects, new economy, what do you think are important right now in terms of the type of professional managers? Are these more useful to add value to the different projects? You know what I mean?
Well, I think, clearly there's a need for technical skills, and, we all know very well about the need to get more young people into STEM and becoming fluent in the technical capabilities that are required across all industries. But again, I would argue that we should not focus on technical skills at the expense of actually expanding our understanding and awareness of the world. The fact is, and I think our panelists would agree, a city like Hong Kong or Singapore is very different, completely different than the megacities across the region and the hinterlands where the masses of people live. So if young professionals are going to actually do, useful professional work that service those large populations, they have to get out of this sort of abundance mindset and understand what life is like within constraints. And I think that's an important distinction.
Okay.
Working in abundance versus working in constraints, and what the business models are
Good point. I think with resources or without resources, there are different measurements. For example, different measurements of success, different outcomes, right? So from the online panels, I would like to ask you the same question. See who can help me first. Okay, do you think the more experienced entrepreneur professionals could necessarily help with some of the smart city projects that you are actually developing right now in your regions, for example? I mean, I know, for example, Joanne is actually matching the tech talent, but in general, the more experienced managers and professionals is the resources, is the type of resources that can put into place in those projects that you guys are running, right? Let's start.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
On that topic, right? It is clear for us, Getlinks, that we can see the trends evolving. When we started Getlinks, we started on a very specific niche, which was back-end engineers. Because at that time, everyone was looking to hire these people, and they were my friends. I used to organize hackathons, and I knew a bunch of back-end engineers. But today, to be honest, our marketplace is serving customer services, finance, admin, accounting, not only tech, right? And this is because simply the tech companies we have been serving for the past 6 years have evolved from having just a tech team to now having a massive customer service team. Think of companies like Foodpanda, for example, right? How many % of their workforce is engineering now compared to the drivers, the deliveries, and the customer service? So for Hong Kong, one of the massive skill sets you have naturally is finance people, right? And finance people with great knowledge and experience who can speak English is rare in that region, right? So one of the things that have helped us a lot with Hong Kong is being able to serve financial literate people into the Southeast Asian market.
Correct.
A lot of former bankers are leaving their corporate company to jump into technology by creating their own company or by joining finance startups. So that's something we've been facilitated. And that just shows how much tech have evolved, right? So when you mentioned about the evolvement of skill sets, I agree with you. It's not just about technical skills anymore. It goes all across the range now. However, all those talents, even in finance, now need to be digitally literate. And I think that's the update that we've seen for the past 10 years.
Peter, what do you think? Peter, for your projects in Hanoi?
Yeah, we've been thinking about a lot of things about how to just allocate resources and from the city. And that is actually the cradle for the every resources. We just we define the how we actually bring the smart city initiatives from where and from whom. I think we define the innovation ecosystem is the key, because there are two different angles, and one policy perspective is very important for the leadership, like mayors, governors of the city or regions. They have to find out the how to create their own city much more sustainable economically, or something. So we designed the tech sandbox, smart city tech sandbox for the entrepreneurs and startups in the beginning of 2014. So the Cognitive City project in London, we applied. We only focus on the smart startups. Some of the large corporations, they only deliver their own roles and only supportive roles they did.
Right.
So in Vietnam, we are actually, I'm actually the master planner for Vietnam Smart City in Hanoi. So it's basically $1 billion projects, and about 30% of the whole budget goes directly to the winners of the open tech cluster. So those 30% will be the great benefits for the startups. They can be bringing their own solutions and technologies.
So Peter, what you're saying is with the government endorsement and some funding, right? There are projects that can perhaps not only hire local people or train or cultivate those talents, but there's also an opportunity for more experienced individuals to come into startups, from overseas and come into and join the project with that open cluster. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's actually, some part, yes. I was also the national smart city master planner in South Korea 3 years ago. It's basically between $4 to $6 billion projects. But most of the Asian smart city initiatives mostly is top-down initiatives. So government is trying to control everything, but we're trying to just make it something parallel. So bring the assets from the public sectors, from most of them is from the governments, also the government agencies, and but majority groups of the stakeholders of smart cities, private sector.
Okay.
So it's not that easy to just make that happen. But all the funds, actually 70% of the whole budgets and the funds coming from the private sectors. So the private sector, they have to support the ecosystem of innovation, where the startups can compete each other throughout the specific smart city.
All right. Okay. Well, I want to stay close to the talent development side, because this is a commonality. So, Puan, can we have some sharing from you? I know in Iskandar region there's a lot of new university. There's a lot of effort in trying to promote the entrepreneurship startup ecosystem, but it's also because of the proximity to Singapore, there were some challenges. Can you share with us?
I think when we talk about digital economy, digital transformation, I think the pandemic has actually accelerated this adoption of digital transformation in Malaysia and also in Iskandar Malaysia.
Right.
But the most important is that because our location very near to Singapore, we have other challenges as well. So when we talk about the challenges to contribution of the shortage of tech talent in Iskandar Malaysia, for example, when we work together with the Ministry of Education and so forth, we realize that there is actually a mismatch of required skills to students' qualification. And I guess when we talk about what are the requirement or qualification required by the industry out there, so we need to actually really focus on that. And secondly, because we are in competition with Singapore, the low salary and benefits for local talent is one of our matters that we still need to resolve. And I guess Malaysian companies, some of them are still actually refuse to invest in developing entry-level tech talent. I know there are many people, young generation has actually qualified to do this, but because of salary, there are not enough perk. So we are actually in competition with Singapore and maybe with Hong Kong as well. There's this limited tech talent also, I mean, if we compare dollar to dollar, of course, they will actually flat to Singapore. And lastly, when we talk about digital and technology-related businesses and agenda, actually this agenda is still new. So I have to say that again, I think since 2016, there are many actually programs that has been actually driven by national level. But some of these programs actually we realize that requires collaboration between governments, private sectors, academicians in tackling the matters. And I think in the next 2 years, we shall see there will be immediate supply to some of this talent. But I hope they don't run to Singapore.
Yeah,
back to you.
Thank you for sharing. And Eric, not Eric. I mean, Paul, I'll come to you in a second. But I'll give you an example. One of the incentives or the ability for Singapore to also attract talent is they have tried to make it very easier with the entrepreneur pass. They call it Entrepass, corporate pass, for example, right? I would like to ask the panels to share, and also Paul. Is this a good government initiative to draw in talent to the ecosystem, right? This is something that I think I'm not familiar with, for example, in Thailand and Vietnam, but I think this is something that even in Hong Kong, it's been trying to make it easier for foreigners to come in to set up startups locally with Cyberport, with the Science Park, for example. Excuse me. And so, for example, Paul, perhaps you can share with us, is there a lot of people coming in to set up business recently with with these government programs? And perhaps other panels Eric, you can share your experience as well. Paul.
Yeah, happy to, Daniel. So I think this whole question around entrepreneurship and cultivating innovation is a very complex question. So touches on a little bit what you just mentioned about entrepreneurs and regulation, all those sorts of areas, and there's others here. So Singapore takes a very cluster-based approach to everything, including driving innovation. So, it touches on some of the points some of the other panelists are making as well. One, you need a group of skills. You don't need a specific type of skill. But so how do you make sure you've got that right balance? So strategic planning at a policy level is very, very important about that. And that happens across all sectors. And then how does innovation plug into that sectorial requirements over the future? Then you get into things like, how are you going to bring those people in? So you talked about some of the innovative type regulations which exist for entrepreneurs. So typically in Singapore to come in, you need to have a certain amount of capital. You need to be sponsored by a business. But what happens when you're a startup and you don't have any of that sort of backing behind you? But how can you allow them to come in? So these types of visas are meant to cater to that type. Then you get into some of these other things as well, which you just mentioned about the education programs. How do you fund it? Who implements it? So in Singapore, it's very much a public sector-led, private sector implemented. So they put the funding in, but everybody's driven on KPIs by the private sector to perform. If you don't perform, you're out. And, it works. It really does. We're linking the sandboxes, you're linking it with industry. How do you fund it? So what sort of regulations do you need to encourage, for example, venture capitalists to come into Singapore? Where it touches on these other sorts of skills, but there's certain tax policies here which encourages those to come in. So it's this combined sort of multi-dimensional approach to driving innovation is what I would say is the strategy.
Eric, you have anything to share there?
Well, I was going to say, I think entrepreneurship and how to, promote these ecosystems and getting people to come, it's all the hot topic. But let's remember, only a small, very thin percentage of society will ever be successful entrepreneurs. I mean, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. It's very difficult. It takes a particular mindset and a particular skill set. So there's a whole issue of job creation, which is about the economy, which Hong Kong definitely needs to, diversify the economy to provide just more good, well-paying jobs. But when we talk about entrepreneurship, my view and our view, and we've written about this, is that the very kind of high-tech, comfortable venues, the office blocks, et cetera, the facilities is just one part. And it could be argued that actually disincentivizes the entrepreneurs to go out and understand what the real world is like. I mean, they shouldn't get too comfortable in a high-tech park, right?
I was going to say that, like working in a high-tech, like a workspace office seems glamorous.
It's so removed.
But the real action is actually go down to countries where there are opportunities, there's social innovation, there are real projects, and real funding, right? I mean, I think Peter's talked about sandboxes, right, in Hanoi, right? There must be projects that are really, really solid.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and if government, I mean, and Singapore and Hong Kong has so much money to promote entrepreneurship around, new digital business models, they should be funding, learning programs and programs that young people can go out and be seconded, work with other governments and startups in different countries, and really fostering that kind of curiosity and the personal resilience that it's going to take to work in these markets, not just stick them in the comfortable high-tech parks.
What do you guys think? Puan, I mean, you're representing a government body mostly. What do you think? Like, would there be an opportunity for Hong Kong, being there are a lot of resources. I mean, I'm sure people would like to explore, to try to work on projects, right? Would there be an opportunity to do that for Hong Kong people? Manuma? Puan?
You ask me? Okay.
Yes.
So I guess I agree with what Eric mentioned just now. I mean, talking about job opportunities. Because I think at the end of the day, if everyone to become entrepreneurs, so who's buying? So job opportunity is actually very important. And for Iskandar Malaysia, actually, our development focus is actually aligned. We have a national focus development on tech talent development under our Malaysia Digital Economic Corporation, or MDEC. So the focus will be looking at how we can continue to build the talent through identifying several university and polytechnics as leading digital tech-focused tertiary institution. And second one, I think what we are working on at the moment is try to see how we can actually inculcate this technology innovation in the primary and secondary student, and we want to see how at beginning level they can actually see that the futures is about innovation, technology, and there are actually one project that actually I think will help us to move forward, which is actually My Digital Maker program that look at how students at early years can actually transform them from consumer to actually become producer of this technology. And interestingly, I think when we talk about this tech talent and shortage of talent, we are also looking at how talent from international can actually support to Malaysia a shortage of talent. And I think there is actually a study done by He, actually putting in question to some of the big companies in Malaysia, and it is actually anticipated that 48% of those companies or employers will consider actually sponsoring or employing a qualified candidate from overseas. So I think for the Hong Kong people that maybe you have the talent, you might also explore. And I think with this digital, I mean, we are actually borderless countries, you can be anywhere, but you can still work wherever you are.
Thank you.
It doesn't have to be Hong Kong. It could be ASEAN talent, and
everywhere.
Maybe Iskandar could, launch a sort of regional kind of innovation hub to bring top, bright young talents together across ASEAN, but focus them on the needs of the region, and coming up with new approaches to meeting those needs, which could be enabled by digital, but it's not purely digital. It's not purely tech, right?
Yeah.
I may add on that because. What is mentioned here is very relevant for us, but on the high level for us, it's really our experience. The reason why Getlinks exists is because I met my co-founder, who is Hong Kongese, and he was coming in Thailand. And Getlinks will never have been what it is if we didn't have my co-founder. He's a former Dutch bank guy, financial background, quit corporate to do startups. And I think I'm seeing a lot of very successful composition of team in Southeast Asia. The one who really passed the Series A stage are the one that have that mix, right? The one that have people from Singapore with people in Vietnam coming together, people from Hong Kong with people from Malaysia coming together. And I think this is already happening, but it's really so hard to do it right now. In my experience with created the company first in Singapore. Very simple to create a company, very foreigner friendly. Hong Kong as well, but Thailand, Vietnam, it's very hard, right? So I think facilitating that, and as you mentioned, Peter, to actually have a clear bridge on how those new founders can connect with the government bonds and budgets on specific industry vertical, that will be really the next step, because it's really blurry how to receive support from the government as being a startup on the ground.
Exactly.
And on the other side, it's very blurry for government to see who to support. I can recon.
Yeah.
So that's the experience of the entrepreneur on the ground.
Yeah. Peter, I think I think it's your turn. Yeah, share with us, because the X-Entry, the open tech projects that you have been doing at Hanoi was really interesting. I participate personally as an observer, and it was really interesting. So do share with us how you can, aggregate all these kind of resources in terms of government support, private funders and investors, and then of course the pipeline of projects, right? Please.
Yeah. Okay, so I think everybody's talking about the local innovation hub, but actually the things changed, because there's the one biggest success factor in London throughout the London tech initiatives and since 2013 and now. So there has been a big change. I mean, the number of startups in the early 2010s, only 300, 400 startups working inside of London. Now it's actually more than 300,000 startups working inside of London, where they produce more than 1 or 2 unicorns every month. So the thing is, with Level 39, for example, that is actually one of the hubs that we're actually just, operating together throughout the X-Entry and my partners there. Out of more than 400 startups in the past 7 years, and now we have more than 13 companies become unicorn. But ironically, only less than 40% of the entire companies inside the Level 39 ecosystem are English or maybe the Scottish, right? The more than 60% from overseas.
What about?
So you can also see. Hello?
Yeah. What about Hanoi though? Like Hanoi, is it picking up? Do you see the same pattern?
Yeah, the same pattern, but it's something different, because I don't believe that actually co-working space is a really workable model, because I know the Singaporean government spent a lot of budgets on, expanding the kind of the Block 71 kind of things, and, the space is actually physical. The thing is, the startups around the world, they're actually looking for the real projects. They don't actually really care about kind of supporting, the kind of package that the government, provide the startups with a co-working space. I think the startups are really interested in that. So real business and real product is the key. So that's why we, the World Smart Cities Forum together with Hanoi City government, we are actually secure the space for only the winners of the startups can be involved in maybe they securing the project there. So it's about 30%, $300 million is actually the for only startups. Even though it's high tech, but high tech is not the only answer, because in Vietnam we're also looking for mid tech and low tech sometimes. So it's all mixture of the kind of the program. So any startups really think that they can be really good enough to win their projects, they're all welcome. So we anticipate about 200 startups will be, open contestants throughout X-Entry Small City Tech Sandbox. And each year, we actually just go through this the core programs for 5-6 times in the future, next 5 years.
Excellent. Okay, we have about 3 minutes left. So what I'm going to do is, I know that there's never going to be enough time for the audience to learn more about some of the great panels today, but I'm sure all the panels have a lot of learnings and experience in different contexts, in leadership, startup ecosystem, fundraising, even working with government and collaboration. So I encourage the audience, anyone within the online now watching our program, actually try to make contact with us. Now, thank you, panels. But before we go, I would like to ask for one thing. This is a tradition that Anson Bailey has started. Can I have each of you, starting with Eric, to give us one phrase that can encourage our audience, keep them excited about the whole day of event today? Like, connected cities, right?
Connected cities. I mean, I would say get out and learn. Get out and learn. Real
Get out and
world.
learn.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. What about Puran from IRDA?
Yeah. I think do consider digital and technology related as your field study work because it is actually on the rise. Yeah.
Do technology and science for your field study work because that's the future,
Yeah.
correct? Okay, thank you. What about Paul? How are you doing? Paul?
Digital's the future.
Digital is the future. Thank you very much. It's very generic. Thank you. What about you, Joanne?
The pace of the change of the environment in the workplace will only accelerate, so you need to be adaptive and stay ahead of the curve.
Stay ahead of the curve because of fast changing environment. Thank you. Peter, what about you?
I never thought about this kind of seriously, but probably maybe we are just trying to organize a smart city consortium between the cities. So beyond the horizon, search for your future throughout the smart city.
Okay. Beyond the horizon, start lining up with other alliances and look beyond, right? Thank you. And I have the final word for myself. I've always used this. It's today's hobby makes future engineers. I've been using this for the last 20 years as my motto. So, okay. Thank you. Cynthia, can I pass this back to you?
Thank you very much. We still have wrapping.
I would just say that I have some very specific examples of these business plans, and they're at our booth. So if you want to go visit the Global Institute for tomorrow, we have a booth. It's digital.
Thank you.
So go do the digital visit. Can I say that?
Absolutely. We do have lots of virtual booths that are actually hosted by Smart City Consortium. There's Entry from Peter, as well as the KPMG Gift has a virtual booth as well. So do visit the Startup Village as well as these virtual booths being hosted by organizer strategic partners. There's lots of actually, and we don't have actually questions today from the audience. So I think with that, I think that's okay, right? Cynthia? Yes. Yeah. Thank you. See you, everyone. Thank you, panel. Thank you, Peter, Paul, Puran, and thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Daniel. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.